Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. I'm Maria Casillas, joined here by my incredible co-host, Cody Sizemore. And we are excited today to join our forces and talk a little bit about some stuff that we've talked about in the past, but watching how it can move forward. And we're going to be talking a little bit about persistence. That's something that's super important in our industry and just in life in general. Let's get real. But we also want to talk about principle and what we know to be important and how we can pass that along to our clients as well. But before we get into all of that amazing conversation, I just wanted to say thank you to each of you who has joined us here this week and all of the previous weeks, and those who are excited to join us in all of the future weeks. We look forward to giving you all the value that we have to give. We receive so much value just by having these conversations. And we've heard from many of you that you also are just making your businesses so much better by listening to all the tidbits that we offer. So we just want to say thank you and welcome back. Cody, good to have you here today.
Good to be here.
I love it.
Good to be here.
So, Cody, you had mentioned before we hit record today that there was a time when we talked about just, like being able to play the long game with our clients, not wondering, if no right now means no forever and that kind of thing. But you recently had something happen in your business that allowed you to see this truly in action, but there was a twist to it. And I loved how you described this twist. So I'm going to ask that you share this story with our listeners today as well.
Yeah. And full disclosure, when I was talking to Maria about this before we pressed record, I was like, I don't even know if I want to talk about it because it's kind of similar to that whole play the long game episode that we released a couple months back.
Yeah.
But it does have a twist to it, which is why I'm like, we should talk about it, know? So I'll go ahead and go into it. I do want to just say this. If at any point you feel like you want to jump in and just comment on something, you don't got to wait for me to finish the whole story.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Okay.
So feel free.
Okay.
So long story short.
Short story long is what he really means.
Yeah. So I had talked to someone probably about 3 years ago for the first time, and hopped on the phone with him, had our conversation, and it was a really good conversation. I saw very clearly that he could get out of his situation with his debt relatively quickly. He had the means to do it. He had a decent, surplus that was projected. But one of the things that kind of came up in that first meeting was, some pain points that he had around money was that, it was a very scarcity kind of mindset that he had. And he also very much operated out of fear in almost every way. So, for example, I'm not going to say the exact college or anything like that, but he got a scholarship offer to one of the most prestigious music colleges in America. And he ended up not taking it because he was afraid that he was going to fail. Right? Which that's a big thing to walk away from. So that's the kind of person I'm talking about, right? So we had that initial conversation, an initial consultation, and went through everything, showed him the plan, talked about some of the things that were kind of affecting him. And then, obviously did my pitch for the coaching, and shocker, because of how he operated out of fear, he ended up not moving forward. And I was like, that's a bummer, but okay.
May I ask, what was his statement to you as to why he wasn't moving forward? Because I can't imagine he said, I'm operating out of fear, Cody, so I'm not going to move forward. So what did he say so our listeners can glean, oh, that's what it looks like to be operating out of fear?
Yeah. So I did call him out on that, and he did agree that that's what it really boiled down to.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
But initially he blamed it on the money.
Okay.
I just don't have that. And I'm like, well, right, you don't have it now because it's not working for you the way that it should. But it's my job to find it, kind of thing, So that was the initial thing, and then it went back to the fear. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we parted ways. I'd probably checked in with him like a couple times, once every like 3 or 4 months, just to kind of see how things are going. But then fast forward a year and a half later, after that initial call, he reaches out to me again and he says, "Hey, dude, still dealing with this, not really making much progress. I'm kind of defeated by it. I'm frustrated by it. Uh, let's see if we can try to figure something out." And I was like, okay. So we hopped on the phone again, went through everything again, got everything updated, went through the whole conversation around, you know, what I do, how I can help him, what he needs, how things are affecting him, pitched the program again, and then the fear struck again. And he said, "I just don't know if now is the right time."
Mm-hmm.
And after some back and forth, that ultimately led to a no. I said, okay. So I walked away from it again.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it was twice that it happened. So I was like, this guy's probably just not going to do this. So I actually just stopped reaching out to him, stopped checking in. Not really trying to get, denied 3 times kind of thing, But then fast forward a year and a half after that, so 3 years total, just a couple weeks ago, he reached out to me once again and said something very similar to what he did the last time he reached out to me, which is, "I'm still dealing with this. I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about getting another job. Um, and I just need help." So, given the history that I had with him, and also given that I really care about him as well, like I've invested myself into this guy, and I've known him just through the woodworks for a while as well. I basically told him, I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm cool with like asking a couple basic questions and seeing if I can just give you like a quick tip. Um, but anything beyond that, I'm not really sure how I can help you." So I asked those questions, and sure enough, it was exactly what I thought it would be, which is, you should not be struggling with this. You should be making progress. This should have already been done, but yet you're still not making it work. And you're considering doing another job that you really don't even need,
Mm-hmm.
to be completely honest with you. So I told him that, and I said, "Listen, dude, it's not information that you need. I can give you this plan. I have given you this plan. I've told you what you need to shift your perspective on. I told you what you need to do. I've done that already, but it hasn't worked. What you really need is not information, it's transformation. And you need accountability, and you need guidance, and you need new systems and new structures in place for you. And you need someone to help you get out of this. So I can't help you any further than what I've already done. I'm sorry." And I said, "So what were you trying to get out of this?" And he said, "Well, quite frankly, I was just hoping for some free advice."
Mm-hmm. And there it is.
Yep. And I was like, yeah, dude, like, I don't blame you for that. Like, if I was in your situation, I would be trying to do the same thing. Like, I don't blame you for wanting to do that. But the fact of the matter is that I could, and I have given you free information and free advice, but you haven't done anything with it.
Yeah.
And if you expect to do this again, you're not going to get a different result. Like, it's literally the definition of insanity. And I told him this. Okay, like I'm speaking to you everything that I said to him. So I said, if you actually want help with this, I'm cool with hopping on another phone call with you, but under the expectation that, like, we're gonna have this phone call, and this is it. It's either you move forward and you finally move past all of this once and for all, or you tell me no, but then I'm done. And I'm okay with either way, but I just want you to understand, like, where I'm at. And he was like, "That's fair." And I said, "Okay." So we hopped on the phone call. We got everything updated. We went through everything. And then I asked him the question, "So where do we go from here?" And I just shut up. I didn't say like anything about shit or get off the pot or anything like that. I just asked him very simply and very plainly, knowing all this and going over everything, where do we go from here? what makes sense for us to do. And his answer was, you know what, dude? I think I've finally just gotten to the point to where I just need to do something. I'm tired of pushing it off. I'm tired of dealing with this. And I still feel just as scared to do it as I did 3 years ago. But I'm more scared of staying here. So let's do it. And then we moved forward. I collected payment. I got the signed agreement. 20 minutes after that, we had our first session on Monday.
Wow. So a
I have
couple
more
things.
that I want to say, but I want to hear from you first.
But yes. A couple things that jumped out are, one, your prices 3 years ago were a lot less than they are now.
Yep.
He probably could have gotten it at a discounted price if he hadn't been so worried about it. I'm also just kind of curious. Do you know if and how many other coaches he went and looked into? I'm just wondering if he went and found like other free advice, if he was continually looking for that or not.
I don't know if he talked to anyone or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that it matters as much, just that obviously he knows that you have something really great to offer him. But because he was kind of stuck in that mindset, I could just see him going and looking, whether it was through other coaches or just other online resources, just, give me all the free stuff. Tell me all of these things that I need. And when we are stuck in that mindset of scarcity, that's what we're looking for, is all the free stuff. But so many times we have to recognize one of two things. Either the free stuff is crap and that's why it's free, or it's just the information, and that's not what's going to get you the transformation that you're looking for. And so in this case, it might have been the latter. But either way, I was just kind of curious about that. So did he recognize and or mention to you any of that change in pricing? Did he even remember?
Not really.
Okay. I was just curious.
No, because not this time at least, because my pricing hasn't changed from the last time we spoke.
Okay.
So there was a jump from
the first time to the
second time, but not the second to the third.
Yeah. So he kind of knew what to expect. Okay. Yeah. I just didn't know if that would be one of those, kick himself in the pants going, gosh, if I had just done this before. Okay. So let's get to some of the principal stuff. I think that I really appreciate that you were willing to kind of draw a line in the sand, per se. Like, you were able to have that boundary, but you did it in such a loving way. It was very charitable. You were just like, you know what? I really do care about what you do. And I'm actually helping you more by telling you I'm not going to continue to do this if we don't move forward with this. And I think that's something that is so hard, not just for coaches to do with their clients, but we see this in any sort of relationship where a boundary is necessary. It could be from a parent to a child. So many times parents are like, well, I want to do this to help my child. And it's like, okay, but that's not helping your child. This happens when we coach parents and they're struggling with their teenage kids, for example, or their adult children. And like, well, my adult child, they need this help. It's like, but you're not actually helping them by doing all of that stuff for them. So we really need to step back, redefine what help means. And you did a really nice job with that, with this particular client. So I just wanted to say kudos to you on that.
Yeah, thanks. And it is really important to set those boundaries to help them, because it definitely did help him. Like, it caused him to make a decision.
That's right.
It caused him to actually take a stand for himself.
Yeah. And the decision ended up being a good one for him.
Right.
But it could have been the other way. He could have taken the other route and said, nope, I'm just not ready. But it still was you doing a good thing by almost forcing that decision to be made.
Yeah. And I also want to double down on this whole like boundaries help kind of thing, because you're completely correct. And we just confirmed that, yes, it is good for the client, but it's really good for you as a coach.
Amen.
Really, really good. Because if I didn't set that, I would almost guarantee that he would not move forward, because history has just shown, right? And then on my end, I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to feel like, for some reason, I just can't crack the code on this guy,
Mm-hmm.
like some imposter syndrome is going to creep in. And I'm also going to be thinking about it as well. I'll be thinking about it for the whole day after he told me no. And I'll probably wake up the next morning still thinking about it because I'm frustrated because it's my third time talking to him. He said no 3 times. Like it's just going to carry over into me. But I told him very cleanly and very plainly, I said, we have either this option where we move forward, or we have this option where we don't. And I'm okay with either way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said that, I actually meant it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't just saying it to like lessen the blow or make it a little more softer or easier to digest for him. No, like I actually meant it because in my brain, I'm like, no way I'm hopping on a 4th phone call.
Mm-hmm.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
So if he says no, then cool. I'm free of this. And that's
Yep.
cool with me because that's going to allow me to move forward, right?
That's right.
But if he says yes, then amazing. Like what a blessing to be able to like help him work through these stages of conquering his fear to then conquer the thing that is a direct byproduct of his fear. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So what an amazing blessing. So it's not just healthy and helpful to set boundaries for your clients or your potential clients. It's also really healthy and helpful to set boundaries for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's my big point there.
It's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, it allows us. One of my favorite analogies for boundaries is the sheep on top of a hill, and there's a fence at the top, and it's some people are like, well, why would you put that fence there? It actually it keeps them from being free, and it's like actually it allows them to roam free because there's no fear of falling off the cliff that is on the other side of that hill. And so this is similar to that. As you set that boundary, it allows you to roam free and be in that third discussion without feeling like you're needing to step over eggshells. And it allows him to really just be honest with himself because you put that barrier, that boundary in place prior to the phone call. And so he showed up knowing if I say no to this, I don't ever get to go back. And he could find somebody else, but obviously he likes and trusts you. And he wanted to work with you. It was him getting over him that needed to happen first. And I think that if you hadn't have put that boundary in place, it would have allowed him to just continue spinning in that hamster wheel and been him being stuck in, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I don't know how. I don't have enough money. Like all of those things. And you said, you know what? This is our final option or final time to work with me specifically. And that's the push that he needed to jump off that hamster wheel and go, yeah, this is scary. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't know if I have what I need, but I do trust this person to help me kind of figure that out. And so I do see all of that as just being now he's able to roam free and discover some of this stuff with you, next to you. And I think he's going to prove himself worthy of being able to do some of this and capable of doing it. And so I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think that what's really important, like if I had to boil it down to a specific takeaway for the listeners today, persistence and consistency is something that I talk about all the time. We've talked about the conversation between consistency and motivation. So, of course, there's underlying tones to this whole conversation around that whole mindset and I guess just how you kind of operate. But the principles side of things with the boundaries, that's something that we've talked about before, but we don't talk about it enough, I feel. And it's something that is scary sometimes. Like I remember sharing a story about, me not giving back a money back guarantee because they didn't fit the qualities of that. And while that was a very stressful conversation and very tense, and a little bit scary to have. I mean, I remember when I was dialing that phone number, like I had some anxiety, but I stuck to my principles. And as a result of that, they went through the program, they were super happy, and they didn't ask for their money back. And that happened actually once again, since we first had that conversation. And it was the same exact outcome, except that the second person actually continued with additional coaching after the program is done. And then this is another prime example of just sticking to your guns. So it's always going to be scary.
Yeah.
It's always going to be hard. But I think that you need to kind of choose your heart, because not living in your own principles, not living in your own values is also very hard and very frustrating and very challenging. So there isn't an easy route. It's more so about choosing which heart you actually want to deal with, because one of them is going to serve you and the other one is going to frustrate you. So choose your heart. That's the big takeaway for me in this episode.
Yeah. And I don't want to detract from that, but I do want to say that sticking to your guns, Cody's not referring to that as sticking to your guns out of stubbornness. It's out of principle. And that's so important. There is a difference. And so know your values, know your principles before setting some of those boundaries into place. And then, even though it will still be hard, it will still maybe be anxiety inducing, it will be easier. I'm using air quotes here, because you know it's in principle and not out of sheer stubbornness.
Yeah. I mean, when you take a stand for yourself, you take a stand for others. That's really what it comes down to. And it's kind of a weird concept to really think about. But if you really take a moment to help wrap your brain around that, the only way that you can actually help other people is if you're operating at your maximum capacity. And this is a prime example. Like if this was a still open-ended loop, I would still be thinking about it. I'd still be frustrated. And I would meet with clients that I was supposed to meet with later on that day, and it would be on my mind. Whereas I took a stand for myself, which means that I'm also taking a stand for not just this new client, but also the other clients that I was meeting with later in that day.
Yep, that you can be fully present for.
Right.
So there you go. Well, thank you so much for bringing this up. It's definitely a good cap onto the conversation that we had before about playing the long game. It's almost like we needed it, but didn't know we needed it until it came into our world. You guys, we appreciate you tuning in today. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.